What an introduction. That's what I pay you the big
Models
money
Inc.
for. Models Inc. No way.
You're going to fight Terry Farrell over what was better, Models Inc. or Paper Dolls?
Oh, Models Inc. for sure, man. I can take her. I can take that Terry Farrell. God, who would, somebody brought, oh, I know. Okay. So earlier this year, I was in Las Vegas for a horror convention. I have to really enunciate there. You know, it's Vegas, baby. At a horror convention and with a bunch of my Pet Cemetery pals. Oh!
Oh, here we go. I think it's our delivery has arrived. Fantastic. Thank you. Wait, hold on. Here you go.
You guys,
Fine, hold on.
favorite food group. I cannot believe you did this.
Ask and ye shall receive.
You're paying for this?
Well, I got to give him a tip.
Okay. Oh, you guys, you don't mind if I eat pizza though?
No, because
While it's warm?
nobody wants cold pizza.
People-
College kids and a margarita.
Yeah. People pay extra to watch you eat pizza at your booth.
Oh my God, you guys. You want one?
No, I'm good because
That's for you.
Pizza at 11 before 11:30.
Nice.
this opens up a whole new bunch of questions.
I love you guys. Anyway, back to Vegas and the horror convention. I need some wine or something, right?
Garcon.
So I'm having drinks with Greg Nicotero, the exec producer of The Walking Dead. Wait, I need my mic. His wife. And we're talking, and I've met his wife before, Sherry, and she's going, I know you, I mean, obviously I know you, but there's something missing here. And she goes back to her room later that night and like looks at my IMDb, and she went, Models Inc. I was like the third AD on Models Inc. So that's wow. Models Inc. came up earlier in the year.
The Nicotero family is a huge fan of Models Inc. apparently. I got to ask you, since you're eating the pizza, this is a very important question. New York pizza, Chicago pizza, which is it? Not this. Which is your preference?
Oh, baby, this is so good.
San Jose pizza, apparently.
New York.
New York.
Yeah, I like the thin, Neapolitan. This is really good pizza. Where'd you get this?
From the Really Good Pizza Place.
This is the really good pizza place, yeah.
What's your favorite New York pizza place?
Well, I was just, oh my God, how am I going to do this? I was just in New York. So I like grab a slice and walk. Yeah, like on Bleecker Street Pizza. I like, a slice. I'm not a big sit down and eat. I think John's
in
is
Times Square.
Yeah, might be. Well, John's on Bleecker.
Oh, John's on Bleecker
is the original. I don't know. I like to walk and have a slice of pizza. That's New York to me. But and LA's got some really serious pizza places now. Pizzana, that's pretty good.
It's true.
Yeah. Pretty
Have
good.
you ever been to Mulberry Street Pizza?
Yes, Mulberry Street
on Ventura.
Oh, there's one in Beverly Hills.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Owned
really
by
good.
Kathy Moriarty.
Kathy
That's right.
Moriarty, man, she knows her pizza.
Because you look around, you say, why are there all these pictures of Raging Bull on the walls?
Yeah,
and
right.
then you find out, oh, it's Kathy Moriarty owns it. So.
Oh, God. Okay.
Not to be confused with Sherlock Holmes's nemesis. Completely different.
But you can also conjure it up on the holodeck.
That's right.
That's hysterical.
But yeah, I see John's original pizza in the church in Times Square. That is awesome as well. But I'm glad that this pizza meets with your culinary.
Oh, God, this is so good. Oh, my God.
Didn't that used to be your nickname, Denise Grab and Walk Crosby? That's what I heard.
I
It
am
was
not
just
touching that line. It's way too early for this trash talk from you, okay?
She hadn't even had her pizza yet.
I know.
Speaking of which, what is the name of this place? Let's give them a shout out.
Oh, my God.
Amici's.
Amici's East Coast
you
Pizzeria that happens to be settled in San Jose.
not to be confused with Don Amici.
So if anybody works at Amici's, next year we expect them to comp the pizza.
Right.
for
Oh,
this,
Amici's, we
promotional-
love you. Pizza for all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Amici's. Well done, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. And we may have a slice after the panel. We'll have
You
to
guys
see.
have to. I mean, there's a huge pizza.
No,
here.
that's all for you.
I mean, I could eat that whole thing, but it won't be pretty. It will not be pretty.
So, you know, we obviously had this, we've done this panel a couple of times. We talked about a lot of interesting aspects of your career. One thing that we haven't spent a lot of time on, which is I think, so interesting, is obviously you getting involved with the motion picture Trekkies with Roger Nygaard, and chronicling this world of Star Trek that is so unique and so unprecedented because, you know, there's no Models Inc. conventions, as far as I know. So
Yet.
when you came into this world that is Star Trek, and all these people wanted to interview you. I mean, this was back in, '87, and then you're getting calls to do all these conventions and cruises and things. What was your initial, and how has it evolved? Has your opinion of the fandom evolved since those early days? And then tell us how that led into the motion picture that you produced.
Wow, it's such a arc, such a journey. So, I had never been to a fan convention in 1987 when the show premiered, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I was told that it was suggested that I go to touch base with the fans, promote the show, have them get a chance to know the new cast members. Because remember when the show first came on, it was met with some
Derision.
Some despair and
skepticism.
And skepticism.
And
That's
not
the word.
just from the original series actors.
Oh, no. There was a real groundswell of fan, mumblings. Of course, this is pre-internet and everything. So can you imagine if the internet or social media was around back then? It would have, God knows, we would have overcome that. But we got word that it was like, oh my God, what do you think you're doing? Blah blah blah. So it was sort of I was on like an ambassador for the show. So went out to all the cons. Then were held in hotels, in small ballrooms in local hotels. And I remember the first time I walked out on stage at a convention, and the audience exploded. I was taken aback. I had the weirdest reaction that I wasn't expecting. It got very emotional. Like, wow, this wall of love and appreciation was there, and it took me by surprise. And I thought, God, don't cry, you idiot, up on stage. And I sort of had to gather my wits. So I began to get invited to these cons, and I began to talk to the fans, and I realized, that this whole other aspect was happening, not just fans loving the show and wanting to talk about episode 9 when the Bajoran comes in, and they were socializing and forming, charities and making friends and gathering in fellowship, like-minded people who were interested in science and technology and science fiction, and they were sharing this passion together. And so when I'd go back home to LA after going to one of these cons, I had friends that had never seen an episode of Star Trek, but were fascinated by the fact that I was going to cons. Like, what do they do? People dress up? They ask you questions? You sign autographs? Wow. And they were fascinated. And I thought, there's something here. What I don't know, but there's something going on that isn't getting a fair, representation. It's very easy for, the media to go, oh, hey, folks, come on out to the convention center this weekend. There's a Star Trek convention. Get those pointy ears on. It was like so, and I thought, I would see this on the news, and I would go, no, that's not what it is. There's other stuff going on, and it's the whys and the hows and what brings you here. And so Roger Nygaard and I, the director of Trekkies, I had acted in his very first feature, and we became friends. And I was having lunch with him one day, and I had come from a con, and I said, I just think there should be a documentary about this. And he said, oh my God, if I hear you say that one more time, let's make a documentary. And I said, us? We don't know how to make a documentary. He said, we're going to figure it out. And that's how it happened.
Yeah, and he's a marvelous cutter. He edited Seinfeld and now Curb Your Enthusiasm, and he's a great comedy editor.
Veep.
So that's why, and Veep, of course, yeah, which is brilliant. But it's why that film, I think, resonates. You talk about the perception of fandom. The local news. Yeah, we just beamed into the convention center, and boy, are we excited to meet all these Trekkies, and we got our ears on and all that. And I think that whole perception, that weird, the way, it sort of dates back, I think, to Shatner cementing it on Saturday Night Live, which is a brilliant skit.
Right.
I mean, it's funny, and but people take it literally. They think that's what Star Trek conventions are. So I think a lot of people who've never been to a Star Trek or sci-fi convention, that's their perception of what it is.
Right.
And clearly it's not. And you did a lot to sort of dispel that idea in the movie.
Thank you. I mean, look, that was our first that was at the forefront of making the documentary. We were not interested in making fun in any way, quite the opposite. So we were carefully talking to fans, asking questions. There was the wonderful Richard Arnold back in the day when we made it, who was Gene Roddenberry's assistant all through Star Trek. He was an archivist. He knew everything about Star Trek you could possibly want to know. And we constantly were running things by him, like, would this be acceptable? Is this the right thing to ask? What is this about? And he was very, very helpful in that way. And the whole point for us was to show that how much other stuff this is about than just dressing up like your favorite character.
Well, it seems to me that there are parallels in fans of sports teams. Absolutely. I mean, fans will go to the stadium dressed in the uniforms, painted, basically the same kinds of things that Star Trek fans dress up as. But they aren't treated like pariahs. That's the only difference.
Exactly,
and
of course.
It's a strange dynamic because 9 times out of 10, they actually think they are members of the team.
Right.
And I don't think anyone actually thinks that they are in space on the Enterprise. I think there's a big difference there. But one of the great things that I loved about Trekkies is that it coined the term Brent break.
Oh, yeah.
And I use it all the time.
Oh my God, that's great. Yes. When I'm feeling stressed and a little overwhelmed, I look out and I look at the Hollywood Hills and I know Brent's house is over there and I take a Brent break. And Roger and I were, I just like, please keep
rolling,
the camera
keep rolling,
rolling.
keep
Just
rolling.
keep rolling. And photo after photo after photo. I wonder where she is right now.
Yeah.
And how many more volumes of Brent photographs might be in her.
Did you have any reaction from Brent?
Then we went to Brent. We interviewed Brent after we had interviewed our young Brent fan. And I said, Brent, you know, there's a woman like right down that hill over in an apartment, and she looks up at you. So why don't you wave? And he goes, oh really? I mean, he was so nonplussed about it, and very, very nonchalant, and you know, in just the way he can be, so beautifully. And he went, great, okay, a Brent break.
But then he immediately picked up the phone and
he
called
moved.
ADT.
He moved. He does not live there anymore, folks. So, yeah.
It's so funny to hear you talk about, I wonder what happened, because it makes me think of those wonderful documentaries that Michael Apted did, 18 Up, where it traced these people over the course of their lives, and many of them have passed away, including Michael, sadly, at this point. But they would revisit it every 12 years, I think it was. Have you wanted to maybe revisit? Because you created these nerd celebrities, like Gabriel Corner, like he's everywhere, right? Because of this movie.
Gabriel texts me every so often, and so Gabriel is 14 in the movie when you know, because I wanted to include, you know, a kid that in all of this, and you know, I spotted him, and I just had a feeling about him, and he turned out to be just one of the best, you know, topics in the movie. He's just so animated and original, and of course, he goes on to work in the business. He is an effects, visual effects designer.
Visual effects artist, and I actually hired him on a couple jobs.
There you go. So, same with Roger. Yeah. Roger hired him, you know, because Roger has done other documentaries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, you know, and Gabriel's a trip, you know. You know, sometimes people have said, well, why are you focusing on these, you know, eccentric type fans? But you know, you are making a movie, and you've got to have, you know, you don't just want a droning, boring sound. And you know, when we discovered these interesting characters, we just had to, you know, include them in the movie. The you know, Barbara, you know, who went to the trial.
Right. She worked at the Kinko's.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Sir Speedy.
Oh, Sir Speedy.
Yeah, Sir Speedy.
Forgive me.
Yeah,
Speedy.
exactly. Yes. And went to the Whitewater trial in her Star Trek uniform. Now, she made headlines, and she just wanted to represent, you know, what the ideals of Star Trek mean. She had to be removed from the jury. They didn't want people dressed in, you know, costume coming to the...
But again, they wouldn't have bumped out someone who was wearing a football jersey.
Right. I'm assuming you're probably right, yeah.
But now if you want to get off of jury duty, you know to wear a Star Trek costume.
That you guys do it, you know, unless it's a really good trial, and you know, you might want to be part of it. But
if you see Denise show up in her tunic from the show.
Yeah. I thought of this I was saying to somebody the other day, I said, you know, what if I like went to a Halloween party like with my Tasha Yar uniform on, you know, and just like didn't say anything. Just walked in. Like, do you think anybody would say anything? Like, what are you doing?
Probably.
What do you mean? I'm dressed as Tasha Yar. Yeah, but
that uniform isn't very accurate.
You played her. Yeah. Wait a minute. You played her. Isn't that weird? Why?
It's not weird.
I don't know. Something full circle, like meta about it.
People dress like themselves every day. I mean, this is not a problem.
But now you have a scene for Trekkies 3. You show up at a party or a Halloween party dressed as yourself.
Right. And like, don't say anything. You know, just as if it's like, oh God, I don't know. Let's put the brakes on for a minute.
I mean, obviously, then when you did the second one, it sort of focused on fans internationally.
Right.
And do you feel there is a tremendous difference between fans of the way Star Trek is feted domestically versus international? I'm kind of surprised how it's not that different.
Absolutely. I was just going to say the same. Because it's, you know, we're human. No matter if we're sitting in Australia or we're sitting in Brazil, you know, it's what appeals to us, what speaks to us, you know, what ideals resonate, and it really is a universal, and that's what we wanted to reflect, and look to see if there are any differences, but there really aren't.
But it's funny, the most intense and passionate fans I've known have been from Europe or South America. I think that there is maybe less of a stigma there than there is here.
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm trying to think. The most astounding moment I think I've had in fandom. I mean, you know, there've been some amazing stories, and you know that people have shared with me over these years. But when I was making Trekkies 2, we went to Serbia, and so in Serbia during the NATO bombings. They would smuggle in, you know, all television was down. They would have smuggled in VHS tapes of the Next Gen, and they would gather, you know, in a like bomb shelter basement. And this group of fans, you know, not a big group, but a group would meet and watch an episode of Star Trek. And they would go, "We can survive this. The world will get better. We will get through this." So when I was able, the country opened up and people were able to go to Serbia, we went. And they had never had a Star Trek actor there before. So they put together a small little signing convention at the University of Novi Sad in Serbia. And I thought, wow. And I'm sitting there, got a couple pictures with me, and we're filming. And in walks this giant man, this big man, this farmer, and with like hands the size of a catcher's mitt, you know, rough and leathery. And in his broken English, he just comes down and he says, "You came."
You know, it's so interesting hearing you say this because, look, it's no secret, you've talked about this a lot, you've talked about it with us, you've talked about a lot of people, that your experience shooting Star Trek that first year was not all that satisfying because you weren't given a lot to do, and there were a lot of other reasons too with the scripts, and for a lot of people it wasn't that satisfying. But it seems as though your experience beyond the stage has been remarkable over all these years. You know, that knowing that that character resonates the way that she does. And I wonder if in Serbia, particularly at that time being war-torn in the 90s, the fact that your character came from a place that was war-torn and she had overcome all these obstacles. You know, she had been orphaned and, you know, struggled to, you know, and made it into Starfleet and now lived a better life. You know, a lot of things that were subtextual and not really textual, but things that, you know, you wanted to explore in the show, maybe that resonated with them.
That's such a good point, and absolutely. That was what was so frustrating for me, partly because the groundwork was, the backstory was so compelling for Tasha Yar. You know, that's a hero's journey, you know, from someone and a woman, a young girl, to come from such darkness and violence and to be alone and make it through that. Not only to make it through that, but to thrive, to get into, you know, the Federation and rise to the top of her class. All on her own will and strength. That's a story you want to know about, you know? Girls want to know that story. Women want to know that that's possible. No matter what happens to you, you can overcome that. And, you know, I would say to the producers and the writers, well, we weren't allowed to really talk to the writers, but with the producers, I would say, guys, my God, you know, I read the backstory. I know about this character. Let me do something with it. Let's do something with this. And, well, you know, we'll get there. And, you know, it was just, that was so ultimately frustrating. But absolutely, the subtext of that is resonates with so many people. So many people.
It's so interesting because I think, in a way, that character was really ahead of its time. There'd been nobody really, I mean, obviously they based it a little bit on the character from Aliens, but that was the inspiration for the character, not that they based it on it. But you know, other than Sigourney Weaver in Alien, there wasn't a strong, even on the show. I mean, there's Marina going, "I feel great joy and gratitude," or "I feel you have a headache," or whatever. But you were, you know, sort of really unique.
Well, we don't really know any of the backstories of any of these other characters, really. I don't know where, you know, I mean, we know Data was built, you know, whatever. But I mean, I don't know where the character of Riker, you know, what his background is or stuff. I mean, but it's really, that was just such a missed opportunity to really explore this world.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because even with Skin of Evil, which is an episode you've talked about a lot, you know, Gene's initial idea, the idea of showing space is dangerous, sudden death, it could happen anytime, is interesting in theory, right? The idea that, oh my God, you know what, someone you love on a TV show suddenly can be taken like that. But from a dramatic point of view, from a character point of view, it's probably not the best way to explore that, because of course, you immediately, you know, realized that when you wanted to come back that you wanted a real heroic death, as opposed to this sort of idea that, oh, death can be sudden and anyone can be taken away from us at any time, which is great in theory, but not in execution.
Absolutely, absolutely. As we see, I think it was really unfulfilling and kind of a letdown for most people.
But in retrospect, it was the best thing that could have happened to your character.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, I do hold a very unique place. And unintentionally, I mean, that, you know, there was no design when I left the show that I was ever going to come back. Or here we are 36 years later, having made 2 documentaries and, you know, created another character. And, you know, it's astounding. I couldn't have predicted that.
And here you are. And I know that there are probably a lot of people have questions. They want to know about if you enjoyed your pizza. They want to know all kinds of stuff. So if you want to line up over here at the microphone. Yeah, while they're lining up. I wanted to give you a little break to have a slice. So if you have questions, come over here to the microphone. I think there might be one over. And ask away.
Don't be afraid.
You know, what do you think of
She's
pineapple?
distracted by pizza right now.
Pineapple pizza, yay or nay? Good.
Hi.
It's an abomination against pizza, the Hawaiian pizza.
Hi, my name is Mars, and I'm a longtime fan, and I just want to thank you for everything. Oh. And you've just been such a powerhouse for me and other female-bodied people around here. And I want to ask you, what is your favorite pizza topping? Because I do a pizza Instagram, and I was just so knocked out. Yeah, it's no fake slices.
Great.
No fake slices. That's me, and I have video of you eating pizza, so I will.
Oh my God!
So
oh my
please
God!
tell me what your favorite pizza is.
Well, they just brought me my favorite pizza, which is a margarita, just a classic margarita. If I'm going to add anything to, you know, it would be just garlic and black olives.
Garlic and black olives, great.
Yeah.
That's a great topping.
Oh
Thank you so much.
God! Thank you,
Thank you.
Mars.
Mars with a Z.
Oh, Mars! Wow!
Yeah.
Thank you, sweetheart.
And Star Trek has been such a big thing in my life. My dad was a producer of Star Trek 6, so I was just.
Stephen Charles Joffe?
Yes, sir.
Really?
Wow.
So I just have loved. I've been just a fan forever. So.
My God!
Thank you.
I am honored to be part of your pizza.
Thank you. Thank you.
And your dad did great work with no money. Man, Star Trek 6 is so much better than it has any right to be. He did a great job producing that film.
Thank you so much.
So
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah, hi, my name's Alex.
Alex,
Yeah.
how are I know what's coming.
Yeah, no, well, first of all, I'd like to say I think Tasha Yar is one of the more unsung Star Trek characters, and I think had she lived, I would say today, like, she'd be, like, big. Like, I'd say, I mean, she kicked ass, like, before she, you know, died.
I am big. I am big, Alex. Only the pictures got smaller.
Exactly, yeah. You know it. Yeah. Could you recall the Nirvana story again, please?
Okay. This is great. Alex came up to me yesterday. He had heard through the grapevine that there was a little Nirvana story and me floating around. So back in the what would that have been, early 90s?
Yeah, 92.
Yes, a good friend of mine, Edie Baskin, did all of the still photos. She has a coffee table book. She originated the photography, the still photos on the original Saturday Night Live and did it for a number of years. You know, all those opening credits and you see all that cast photos. My husband Ken and I were in New York and she said, you've got to come to a taping of SNL. And you know, I've watched SNL since 1975. I'm a huge fan. And so we said, yeah, great. So we come to the taping, and we're in the wings. We're not even in the, you know, seats in the audience. We're just in the wings watching, and Nirvana is the musical guest. So we're watching, and they're great. They kill it, you know, their second song. There's one more sketch. The show ends. And we're all invited, you know, I'm invited to the after party. They always have an after party after the taping. So we make our way to the elevator, and I get in, and there is Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers and some really young, hot chick. And there is Dave Grohl and his girlfriend, and Kurt Novoselic. How do you say his name?
Chris Novoselic.
Chris Novoselic, yeah. And his girlfriend. So I'm going, and the door's shut in the elevator. I'm going, okay, don't say a word. Actually, close your eyes or look down. Do not say a word. Anything that comes out of my mouth right now is going to be ridiculously stupid. There's nothing I can do, nothing I can say. Close your eyes, look down. My husband has no clue as to who any of these people are. Having just even seen Nirvana, he still doesn't know who they are. So he's just, you know, and he's just chilling and going down. We're looking at the elevator. I'm looking down, and all of a sudden, Chris looks at me. He goes, I know who you are. You're fucking Tasha Yar. And I looked at him and I said, and you're fucking Nirvana. And we just started laughing and got to the bottom of the 30 Rock and walked out to the party. And it was like, oh man, okay, yes.
That's a great
Alex,
question.
thank you.
But did you go to the after party after the after party? Saturday Night Live is famous for like having after parties after the after party.
Oh yeah, no. I think at my limit. I reached my limit. Yeah.
I'm excited about that Jason Reitman film about the beginnings of Saturday Night Live that's coming out this fall.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whoa.
Hi, my name is also Alex.
Alex to the square.
Yeah. My question is, having been chief of security, did you ever wonder or have any thoughts around the fact that the bad guys always keep their phasers on stun or a very low setting when they could probably have it on vaporize?
That the people
the bad guys, the bad guys that you're fighting.
Oh. Well, no, I never really thought. I was more concerned. Man, you got to imagine going onto that show for the first time, and I'm handed, you know, a phaser and a communicator badge, and you know, sometimes this like tricorder thing, and it's like, what do I do with this? Okay, there were so many scenes where I pulled my phaser out and it dropped, or I pulled my phaser out and went. Bzzz. I went, oh God, I made a sound. You know, no, we'll put that in afterwards, you know? Or hitting the communicator, I would like go, you know, like, oh my God. Michael Okuda, the designer, had to come, when I was working the Horseshoe, I was like pressing a bazillion buttons. And he goes, I think by then you'll only need to hit one button, you know, and everything will fly. So it was a learning curve, you know? So I'm sure I wasn't paying too much attention. But not everyone had phasers, though. Not all the bad guys we were fighting.
Yeah, but I always wonder, the fact that whenever you encounter one of these aliens with phaser technology, and you know that, they have different settings, right?
Yeah.
So how when they invade the Enterprise, for example, they are not in there trying to respect life or anything, but conveniently, whenever they hit somebody, the setting was not vaporized.
Well, it was always, they couldn't just, they needed us. They couldn't destroy us. They needed us to work the ship, or they needed us, they needed concubines, or they needed, ransom, or there was something that, prevented them from completely destroying us.
They were warlike, but they weren't stupid.
Yeah. It was negotiable at that point,
Okay, thank you.
You're
Alex.
so funny.
Hi, I'm Ryan Garthok, and I'm a huge fan of the Trekkies movies. I really love them. I love the way they portray this fandom. And I was just curious, like our friend had kind of mentioned, have you guys considered going back, revisiting some of the people that you interviewed, or doing a third documentary?
Yeah, we have talked about doing a third one, and obviously going back to revisit all of our stars. Paramount owns Trekkies. Well, the second one, not the first one anymore. So we have to kind of, it's been in such disarray, that studio, and really, they've just sold the studio. It hasn't come into effect yet. They're working out the details. Things have to settle a little bit. There's going to be new people.
No one knows if they're going to have a job on Monday.
I'm going to say, there's no one left at that studio who I even ever dealt with during all of the Trekkies negotiations. So we have to kind of, there's always a moment to strike, and if I can see that time, that moment, I will make a move. So I'm just waiting to see if I can make a move yet to do a third. But Roger and I are game.
Well, when the moment strikes, the fans are here for you.
Yeah, oh God, you guys, always, always.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Mitchell. TNG is by far my top personal favorite Star Trek show. And my question for you, Denise, is knowing that you didn't get a chance to explore Tasha's backstory, if they were to include an episode that explored that backstory, would you have wanted to write it, and how would you go about it?
Wow, I'm not a screenwriter, so I leave that to the experts. But I mean, there's certainly a lot there to talk about, and I certainly would have liked to have seen her leap from being a civilian, let's say, at what age she finally, how did she get into the academy?
Yes.
What was that day, what's leading up to that? How did she prepare for that?
And how do you think that would have strained her dynamic with her sister?
Well, I mean, I would hope that, knowing Tasha, she would have, I would imagine, tried to seek her out, her sister, bring her on board.
Well,
Thank you.
whatever the case, never stop trekking, okay?
Yeah, you too.
And one more thing. I'm going to point it towards my comm badge. Can you hear that?
Awesome. Awesome. Live long and prosper.
Make it so.
We're almost out of time, so let's get through these last two questions. So,
Hi.
Hi.
I loved you as Tasha, but I really loved you as Sela, especially when you came back for Star Trek Online, the MMO game.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
But my main question actually is back to TNG. What was it like working with the legendary Spock himself?
I remember just, having this extraordinary moment with Brent. We were off in the sideline, and Brett looks at me and he goes, "Can you believe this? Spock." And I went, "Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird, huh? It's kind of cool." And Leonard was great. He was just very available. And, I remember when I went to, when I was shooting Trekkies, and I approached him, and he was so gracious. He opened up I spent hours with him, our crew at his offices in Beverly Hills. There was nothing off the table. We could talk about anything. He was just great.
Thank you very much.
And you.
Okay, you get the last question. Welcome.
This is not Star Trek related, so I'll be sorry to the crowd. So I'm just wondering, since Star Trek, I love like weird things like technobabble. I'm on season 7 of Suits right now. I hear in season 9, and the cuts are so fast, and like Harvey Specter has like a 30-second monologue. He just going. How is it working on Suits, and did any part of Star Trek like translate over to that experience?
Wow, what an interesting question. Good one. Yeah, you've got it. It's quick. It's fast. You've got to be sharp. Get those lines going. They're intelligent people, so you can't like going they just rattle stuff off. But that was a really embracing, open, warm reception I got from that cast. They were terrific, each and every one of them. And that was tough, walking onto a show that had long been established and had really been through a lot. I mean, they had a princess come out of it, for God's sake. And I was playing such a, badass coming in and breaking up that office. So I was like, I remember we would always have table reads. And, I had a particularly tough episode coming up where I'm just, like, nailing them and, telling them that, like, a bunch of dogs, like, barking all the time. And I said, guys, I this isn't really how I feel. And they said, bring it, girl, bring it, So they were very, very welcoming and made it easy for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to Denise. Now is GalaxyCon tradition. They're going to take a group selfie. So Denise is going to be at the front of the stage. If you could all gather around her, they'll take a giant picture, and then you'll be at your booth. And you and a pizza.